When my son told me he was taking everything I owned, I laughed in his face. Days later, I was standing on the sidewalk with nothing but a suitcase and my car keys. That's when I realized family loyalty is like quicksand. The more you struggle to hold on to it, the faster you sink. If you're watching this, hit that subscribe button and tell me where you're from in the comments. Because believe me, this story twists harder than a tornado in Kansas, and you'll want to be here for every shocking revelation. My name is Margaret Sinclair, and 3 months ago, I had it all. A sprawling estate passed down through generations. A thriving family business I'd helped build alongside my late husband Richard. And a son, Evan, who I thought was the crowning achievement of my life. I remember that fateful Tuesday, like it was yesterday. I'd just returned from our quarterly board meeting, where I'd successfully fended off another attempt by our competitors to force a merger. I was tired but triumphant as I pulled into our circular driveway, noticing an unfamiliar black sedan parked near the entrance. "Mrs. Sinclair," my housekeeper Martha whispered, her eyes red-rimmed as I entered. "There are people waiting in the study. Mr. Evan is with them." I walked into my own study to find 3 stern-faced lawyers surrounding my son. He sat in Richard's chair, my chair now, looking like a stranger wearing my son's face. "Mother," he said with a coldness that froze my blood. "These gentlemen are here to facilitate the transfer of ownership. Of everything." "What transfer?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady despite the panic swelling in my chest. "What are you talking about?" Evan slid a document across the mahogany desk. "You should have read the fine print in Dad's will more carefully. There's a clause that allows for transfer of controlling interest once the company reaches certain financial benchmarks. Benchmarks we hit last quarter. But Richard never intended. It doesn't matter what Dad intended," Evan cut me off. "It matters what he signed. And now Sinclair Holdings belongs to me. Script part separator equals. One of the lawyers, a ferret-faced man with wire-rimmed glasses, cleared his throat. "Mrs. Sinclair, I understand this comes as a shock, but the documents are quite clear. Your late husband's provisions allow for succession once quarterly earnings exceeded $50 million for 3 consecutive quarters." "This is ridiculous," I sputtered. "I'm the CEO. The board just reaffirmed my leadership this morning." Evan smiled, not the warm smile of my boy, but a calculating smirk I'd never seen before. "The board serves at the pleasure of the majority shareholder, which is now me." I looked at my son, searching for any sign of the child I raised. "Why are you doing this? We could have discussed any concerns about the company." "It's not just about the company, Mother." He stood up, buttoning his designer suit jacket. "It's about everything. The house, the vacation properties, your seat on the hospital board. All of it transfers to me. You can't possibly expect me to just—" "You have 48 hours to vacate the premises," he said, glancing at his watch like he had somewhere more important to be. "I've been generous enough to arrange temporary accommodations at the Westbridge Hotel." My legs nearly gave out. 48 hours? To leave my home of 30 years? "Dana and I will be moving in immediately," he continued as if I hadn't spoken. "Dana." Of course. His partner of just 8 months. The elegant, sharp-tongued woman who'd appeared in our lives like a hurricane, sweeping my son into her orbit. I tried to welcome her, despite my reservations about how quickly they'd become inseparable. "Where is she?" I demanded. "Is she too much of a coward to face me while you rob your own mother?" Evan's jaw tightened. "Dana is making arrangements for our new office. And I'd appreciate if you'd refrain from insulting my future wife." "Future wife." The room tilted. I grabbed the edge of the desk to steady myself. "Mrs. Sinclair," one of the other lawyers interjected, "we can discuss the specifics of your personal belongings and get out." My voice was barely a whisper. "Mother, be reasonable. Get out." I screamed, my composure shattering like fine crystal. "Get out of my study. Out of my house. Script part separator equals. Evan remained unnervingly calm as I lost control. His face, the face I'd kissed goodnight thousands of times, showed nothing but cold calculation. "This is no longer your house, Mother. I'm sorry you're taking this personally. It's just business." Just business? I choked out a laugh that sounded more like a sob. I changed your diapers, Evan. I nursed you through pneumonia when you were 8. I sat up with you all night when Jessica broke your heart in college. And this is how you repay me? For a moment, just a flicker, I thought I saw something like regret in his eyes. Then Dana appeared in the doorway, and whatever humanity might have been stirring in my son vanished. Is everything all right? She asked, her voice dripping with false concern. I heard shouting. She looked flawless as always. Designer clothes, perfect makeup, not a single platinum blonde hair out of place. I'd once admired her polish. Now I saw only the predator beneath. Everything's fine, Evan assured her. Mother's just processing. I see, Dana said, moving to stand beside my son. She placed a possessive hand on his shoulder. Margaret, I know this must be difficult, but change is necessary for growth. Evan has such vision for the company's future. Vision? I spat. The only vision here is of my son being manipulated by a gold digger young enough to be his. That's enough. Evan slammed his hand on the desk. You don't know what you're talking about. Dana has been my rock while you've been running this company into the ground. Running it into the ground? I've increased our profits by 30% in the 3 years since your father died. And imagine what we could do if we weren't clinging to outdated business models, Dana interjected smoothly. Your sentimentality is holding Sinclair Holdings back. The lawyers exchanged uncomfortable glances. Mrs. Sinclair, perhaps we should reconvene tomorrow when emotions aren't running so high, the older one suggested. There's nothing to reconvene about, Evan stated flatly. The paperwork is in order. I expect the premises vacated by Thursday. I looked at my son, truly looked at him, and realized I no longer knew who he was. How long had he been plotting this? How many nights had he sat across from me at dinner, smiling and discussing the company, all while preparing to steal it from under me? Fine, I said finally, my voice hollow. You want me gone? I'll go. But remember this moment, Evan. Remember what you did to your mother. I turned and walked out of the study, refusing to let them see my tears. Behind me, I heard Dana's voice, sickly sweet. Don't worry, darling. She'll adjust. They always do. Script part separator equals. I spent that night pacing the halls of my home, touching familiar surfaces, memorizing the feel of banisters my hand had glided over for decades. By morning, exhaustion had hardened into resolve. If Evan thought I would slink away broken, he was sorely mistaken. Martha found me in the kitchen at dawn, still in yesterday's clothes. Mrs. Sinclair, she whispered, tears streaming down her weathered face. I just heard. It's not right what they're doing to you. I squeezed her hand. How long have you known? Mr. Evan asked me last week if I'd stay on after changes were made. She looked away. I should have warned you.
No, Marta.
This isn't your burden. I straightened my shoulders. How many of the staff know? All of them by now. The security team's already been replaced. New men arrived last night. That explained the unfamiliar faces I glimpsed patrolling the grounds. Evan wasn't taking any chances. I nodded grimly. I need your help. There are things I need to gather before I'm escorted out. Martha helped me collect family photos, jewelry, and important documents. I noticed certain items already missing from my bedroom. My grandmother's antique music box, the painting Richard had commissioned for our 20th anniversary. Dana wasted no time claiming her prizes. At precisely 9 a.m., my phone rang. The screen displayed unknown caller, but I knew who it was. Margaret Sinclair, I answered, my voice glacial. Mrs. Sinclair, this is Theodore Walsh from Blackstone Financial, the bank where our family had done business for generations. I'm calling regarding your accounts. Let me guess, Theodore. My accounts have been frozen? His uncomfortable silence told me everything. Mrs. Sinclair, I deeply regret to inform you that as of this morning, your signatory permissions have been adjusted. Mr. Evan Sinclair is now the primary. Spare me the corporate doublespeak, I interrupted. My son has stolen my money. Just tell me, is there anything he hasn't touched? Script part separator equals. After an excruciating pause, Theodore cleared his throat. Your personal checking account remains untouched. The one you opened separately last year. I nearly laughed. The account I'd opened for charitable donations held barely enough to cover a month at a decent hotel. Thank you, Theodore, I said, my voice dripping with ice. Your family has banked with mine for 3 generations. My husband played golf with your father every Sunday. I'm sure you did everything you could to prevent this. He stammered something about regulations and binding instructions, but I'd already hung up. Martha stood in the doorway, wringing her hands. Mrs. Sinclair, there's someone here for you. I expected more lawyers or perhaps security to hurry my departure. Instead, Emily Watson strode into the room, her practical pumps clicking on the marble floor. My oldest friend and the estate attorney who had helped draft Richards looked furious. Maggie, I just heard. This is outrageous. She dropped her briefcase on the counter. I came as soon as my assistant showed me the filing. Did you know about this clause? I asked, too exhausted for pleasantries. Was it there when Richard signed? Emily's face flushed.
No.
Absolutely not. I've been reviewing our copies all morning. That provision wasn't in the original documents. Someone must have added it after I finished for her, or swapped the pages before filing.
This is fraud, Maggie. We can fight this.
I laughed bitterly. With what? They've taken my money, my home, my company, all within 12 hours. I don't even have funds to retain you. Emily squared her shoulders. You don't need to retain me. I'm already retained by Richard's estate. And if someone has tampered with his final wishes, I have a fiduciary duty to investigate. For the first time in 24 hours, I felt a flicker of hope. Script part separator ===. Emily's righteous anger fueled my own. Where do we start? I asked, straightening my shoulders. First, we get you somewhere safe. Then we gather evidence. She glanced at Martha. Is there anything Mrs. Sinclair needs to take that hasn't been packed? Martha twisted her apron. The safe, ma'am. Behind the painting in Mr. Richards' office. I'd almost forgotten. Richard had installed a hidden wall safe years ago, one that wasn't on the house blueprints. Inside were emergency passports, some cash, and Richard's journals. I breathed. 10 minutes later, I was opening the concealed panel while Emily kept watch at the door. My fingers trembled as I dialed the combination. Our anniversary date. The small door swung open, revealing several leather-bound books and an envelope with $5,000 cash. Smart man, Emily murmured as I handed her the journals. These might contain something useful. A sudden commotion downstairs made us both freeze. Dana's voice echoed through the hallway. I want everything in the master bedroom packed today. The decorators arrive tomorrow. Time to go, Emily whispered, stuffing the journals into her bag. We slipped down the back stairs, but at the kitchen door, we ran straight into Dana. Leaving so soon? She asked, eyes gleaming with triumph. I was hoping we could discuss which charities should receive your old clothes. Dana, I said with forced calm, congratulations on your rapid ascent. Did you pick my son for his money, or was it just a happy bonus? Her smile never wavered. Oh, Margaret.
Always so direct.
Evan appreciates my vision, something you've clearly lost with age. Emily stepped forward. Miss Dana, as the attorney for the Sinclair estate, I should inform you that any amendments to Richard Sinclair's will are under investigation. Dana's perfect composure slipped, just for a second. Emily, isn't it? Evan mentioned you. A family friend playing at being a lawyer. How sweet. She checked her watch. You have 30 minutes before security escorts you out, Margaret. I'd use them wisely. She sauntered away, but not before I caught the flash of worry in her eyes. Script part separator ===. As we drove away from the estate, my home for 3 decades growing smaller in the rearview mirror, a strange calmness washed over me. I'd lost everything material, but I still had my dignity, and now, a burning purpose. Emily drove us to her condo downtown, insisting I stay with her rather than waste money on a hotel. We need to move fast, she said, spreading Richard's journals across her dining table. Evans filed for an emergency board meeting tomorrow. He's replacing the entire executive team. He's eliminating anyone loyal to me, I murmured, flipping through Richard's meticulous handwriting. But why now? What's the rush? Emily's phone buzzed with a text. That's Roger from accounting, she said, frowning at the screen. He says he needs to meet urgently, somewhere private. Roger Daniels had been our company's chief financial officer for 15 years. Richard had trusted him implicitly, and I continued that trust. Tell him to meet us at Café Noir in an hour, I said. If he's risking contacting us, it must be important. The café was nearly empty when we arrived. Roger slipped in wearing dark sunglasses despite the cloudy day, nervously scanning the room before sliding into our booth. Mrs. Sinclair, he whispered, I'm so sorry about what happened. I had no idea until the papers crossed my desk yesterday. What papers, Roger? I asked, keeping my voice steady. He glanced over his shoulder before sliding a USB drive across the table. Financials. Not the ones presented to the board. The real ones. His hands trembled. Dana's been cooking the books for months. Those benchmarks that triggered the takeover clause? They're fabricated. Emily gasped. That's securities fraud. Roger nodded grimly. There's more. I did some digging into Dana's background. She's not who she claims to be. Script part separator ===. Roger leaned in closer, his voice barely above a whisper. Her real name is Daniela Kovac. 5 years ago, she was implicated in a similar scheme at Westridge Industries in Chicago. The CEO's son fell for her. She manipulated him into taking over the company, then bankrupted it through a series of shell corporations. My stomach clenched. And no one pressed charges? The family paid millions to keep it quiet, Roger explained. They were too embarrassed to admit they'd been conned. The son had a nervous breakdown afterward. How did you find this out? Emily asked, already taking notes. Roger pulled out a worn photograph. My cousin works for a private equity firm in Chicago. I remembered him mentioning a scandal when I described Dana. He sent me this. The photo showed a younger Dana, darker hair, different name on her badge, but unmistakably her, standing beside a man who resembled Evan in both age and bearing. There's something else, Roger said, his voice dropping even lower. They're pushing through a merger with Axiom International next week. It's a shell company. Once the paperwork is signed, they can drain Sinclair's assets legally. I felt dizzy. Next week? That's impossible. Merger approvals take months. Not when the board has been replaced with Dana's people, Roger countered. The new board meets tomorrow at 3 p.m. Approval is the only agenda item. We need to stop that meeting, I said, clutching the edge of the table.
How?
Emily asked. You've been removed from the company. Security won't even let you in the building. I still have friends, I said, straightening my spine. Starting with the man sitting across from us. Roger, are you willing to testify about these irregularities? He paled visibly. Mrs. Sinclair, they'll destroy me. I have kids in college, and I have nothing left to lose, I replied. Help me save the company Richard built, the company that put your children through private school and paid for your vacation home in Aspen. Roger stared at the table for a long moment before nodding slowly. I'll help. But we need more than just my word against theirs. Script part separator ===. We had 24 hours to build a case strong enough to stop a corporate takeover that had been months in the planning. I felt like David facing Goliath, if David had also been recently evicted and robbed. Emily worked through the night, analyzing the financial records Roger had provided. By morning, her dining table resembled a war room, covered with papers, legal pads, and empty coffee cups. We have enough to raise serious questions, she announced as I emerged from her guest room, having slept fitfully. But not enough to stop them cold. We need something definitive that connects Dana directly to the fraud. I stared at the scattered evidence. What about her past? If she's done this before? The Chicago records were all sealed as part of the settlement, Emily explained. We'd need a court order, which takes time we don't have. My phone rang. An unknown number. I answered cautiously. Margaret? It's Martha. I'm using the gardener's phone. Her voice was hushed, urgent. They're tearing through your old office. Dana's looking for something specific, keeps asking about a safety deposit box key. I froze. The key. In all the chaos, I'd forgotten. Martha, listen carefully. In my dressing room, behind the loose tile under the vanity, there's a small velvet pouch. Can you get it without being seen? I'll try. Security's focused on the main house.
She paused.
What is it? Possibly our salvation. After hanging up, I turned to Emily. Richard kept a separate safety deposit box at First National. Only he and I knew about it. He said it contained insurance. Emily's eyes widened. Insurance against what? I never asked. Richard had contingencies for everything. I'd always thought it paranoid. Now, it seemed prophetic. 2 hours later, Martha met us in the parking lot of a shopping mall, slipping me the small pouch before hurrying away. Inside was a single key with a number tag. At the bank, a manager escorted us to the vault. The safety deposit box contained 3 items: a USB drive labeled private, a sealed envelope addressed to me in Richard's handwriting, and a small recording device. With trembling fingers, I opened the letter first. My dearest Maggie, if you're reading this, something has gone terribly wrong. I've suspected for some time that certain parties have designs on our company beyond legitimate business. The enclosed evidence documents conversations with individuals who approached me with questionable proposals, including one from your sister Caroline's husband. Trust no one except Emily. Use this only as a last resort. All my love, Richard. Caroline's husband? Harold? He died in a boating accident just months after Richard. The recording device contained multiple conversations. The last one made me gasp. A woman's voice, unmistakably Dana's, though she called herself Daniela, discussing with Harold how they would restructure Sinclair Holdings once certain obstacles were removed. Richard's voice, calm but firm. So you're proposing I step down and install your people on the board? Dana's laugh, cold, calculating. It would be cleaner that way. Otherwise, accidents happen. Like they happened at Westridge. Script part separator equals. I played the recording 3 times, my hand trembling worse with each repetition. Emily's face had gone pale. This is a direct threat. She was threatening Richard's life. And then Richard died of a heart attack 6 weeks later, I whispered. A heart attack that surprised his doctor, who'd given him a clean bill of health just a month before. We need to get this to the police, Emily insisted. I shook my head. We don't have time. The board meeting is in 3 hours. Police investigations take days, weeks. We need to stop that merger now. Back in the car, I connected the USB drive to Emily's laptop. It contained financial records, emails, and a damning trail of shell companies all leading back to an offshore account controlled by 1D, Kovac. It's all here, Emily breathed, scrolling through the files. Richard documented everything. He must have been investigating them for months. I felt a fresh wave of grief. My brilliant, cautious husband had tried to protect us even after his death. And I'd failed to see the danger circling our family until it was almost too late. But now we had ammunition. My phone rang, Roger again. His voice was panicked. Mrs. Sinclair, they've moved the meeting up to 1 o'clock. Someone must have tipped them off. I checked my watch. 12:15. We'd never make it in time. Roger, I need you to stall them. Question the financials, demand external auditors. Anything to buy us time. I'll try, but Dana's brother arrived this morning. He's intimidating the board members one by one. Her brother? I frowned. I didn't know she had a brother.
Calls himself Nikolai.
Big guy, Eastern European accent. He's been introduced as a major investor. Script part separator equals. I clutched the phone tighter. Roger, listen carefully. I need you to send me a photo of this brother.
Right now.
He whispered that he'd try, and hung up. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed with an incoming image. A tall, broad-shouldered man with familiar eyes standing next to Dana, his hand possessively on her shoulder. Emily gasped when I showed her. That's not her brother. That's Anton Kovac, her husband from the Chicago scam. He disappeared with millions after Westridge collapsed. The pieces suddenly clicked together. This wasn't just a corporate takeover, it was an elaborate con. Evan wasn't a partner. He was a mark, just like the previous CEO's son. My heart clenched despite everything. Whatever Evan had done, he was still my son, and he was in danger from these people once they got what they wanted.
We need to get to that meeting.
Now, I said, already dialing another number. Hello, Trevor? It's Margaret Sinclair. Remember when you said you owed me for getting your daughter that internship? I'm calling in that favor. Trevor Banks was the head of building security for the Sinclair Tower, not the company security that Evan had replaced, but the actual property management team that controlled access to the building itself. 10 minutes later, we were racing downtown in Emily's car, the precious evidence clutched in my hand. My phone rang again, Roger. They're starting, he whispered. Dana just announced the merger as a done deal. They're bringing in the paperwork now. Stall them. I pleaded. We're 5 minutes out. Script part separator . The boardroom fell silent as Emily and I burst through the doors, Trevor right behind us. 14 faces turned toward us in shock. The new board members, Dana, my son, and the man calling himself Nikolai. This meeting is closed, Dana said coldly. Security. Stay where you are, I commanded the guards by the door. Before you take another step, everyone needs to hear this. Evan stood up, his face flushed. Mother, this is embarrassing. You're trespassing. Am I Evan? Or am I saving your life? I held up the recording device. Your girlfriend isn't who she claims to be. Neither is her brother, who's actually her husband and partner in multiple fraud schemes.
Dana is composure correct.
This is absurd. Evan, she's desperate. Play it, I said to Emily, who connected the device to the room's sound system. Richard's voice filled the room, followed by Dana's unmistakable threat. As the recording played, Dana's face transformed from confident to cornered. Nikolai's hand moved toward his jacket. I wouldn't, Trevor said quietly, showing his weapon. Building security. Real security. I walked toward Evan, whose face had drained of all color as he listened to Dana discussing how to remove obstacles, just weeks before his father's sudden death. The USB drive contains evidence of identical schemes at 3 other companies, I continued, my voice steady. Each time, the CEO's son was the target. Each time, the company was bankrupted through fraudulent mergers. And each time, the son ended up ruined, or worse. Script part separator . Evan looked from me to Dana, his face a battlefield of shock, betrayal, and dawning horror. Dana, is this true? She recovered quickly, forcing a laugh. Evan, darling, your mother is clearly having some kind of breakdown. This recording could be anyone. I have the Chicago police report, I cut in, sliding the document across the table. And photos of you, with a Westridge heir before he attempted suicide. Plus financial records showing where the missing millions went, to the same offshore accounts you've been setting up for Sinclair funds. The board members began whispering among themselves. One stood up. I move that we suspend this merger vote, pending investigation. This is ridiculous. Dana hissed, her mask slipping completely. We have legal documentation. Forged documentation. Emily interjected, stepping forward. I've already filed complaints with the SEC and State Attorney General's office. She turned to the board. As the attorney who drafted Richard Sinclair's original will, I can testify that the succession clause used to orchestrate this takeover was fraudulently inserted after his death. Nikolai suddenly lunged toward the door, but Trevor was faster. 2 security guards restrained him as he shouted something to Dana in what sounded like Russian. Evan stared at Dana, his face ashen. Tell me it's not true, he whispered. Tell me you didn't, you wouldn't have. Her eyes went cold. You're just like the others.
Weak.
Sentimental. She spat the words like venom. Your father was smarter. He saw through me. That's why he had to go. At her confession, the room erupted into chaos. Evan stumbled backward as if physically struck. Security officers rushed forward to detain Dana, who fought them with surprising strength, screaming obscenities in multiple languages. Through the tumult, I made my way to my son. He looked utterly shattered, the arrogant businessman replaced by a lost boy. Mom, he whispered, his voice breaking. Dad, did she really? I took his hands in mine. The medical examiner is reopening the case tomorrow. They'll find the truth. Tears streamed down his face. I believed everything she told me. About you holding the company back. About Dad wanting me to take over. I was so stupid. Not stupid, I said gently. Just targeted by experts. You're not their first victim. Over the following weeks, justice moved swiftly. Dana and Anton Kovac faced multiple federal charges, their elaborate criminal history finally exposed. Richard's death was reclassified as a homicide by poisoning. The falsified documents were invalidated, returning control of the company to me. But the greatest healing came more slowly. Evan and I rebuilt our relationship one difficult conversation at a time. He stepped away from the company temporarily, seeking therapy to process his guilt and grief. 6 months later, on the anniversary of Richard's death, we stood together at his grave. He would be proud of you, Evan said quietly. How you fought back. How you didn't give up on me even when I deserved it. I squeezed his hand. That's what family really means. Not power or money or control. Just being there, even through the worst moments. As we walked back to the car, my phone chimed with a news alert. Dana's sentencing was scheduled for next week. She would likely spend decades behind bars. Justice had been served. But more importantly, what truly mattered had been saved. The rest was just business.